Vampires, creatures of the night. They are the stars of myths and legends that have been around for centuries in many cultures. But who are vampires really? And where did their myth come from? Today, we'll explore the oldest legends, the little-known facts, and the popular beliefs that surround these creatures, both fascinating and feared. The figure of the vampire, as we know it today, has its roots in Eastern Europe, particularly in medieval Romania. One of the most famous names associated with vampires is Vlad III, known as Vlad the Impaler or Dracula. Although historically Vlad was a cruel ruler known for impaling his enemies, over time his name became associated with vampires, particularly thanks to Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. But the vampire legend existed long before Vlad. In the popular beliefs of many cultures, vampires are spirits or reanimated corpses that come out of their graves to feed on the blood of the living. This belief was so widespread in Europe during the Middle Ages that many corpses were dug up to be killed a second time. It was common to find graves with decapitated bodies or with iron objects driven into their chests, because it was believed that these measures prevented vampires from rising again. But not all cultures saw vampires in the same way. In China, for example, there is a figure called the Jiangshi, a hopping vampire that absorbs the life energy of its victims. This being does not feed on blood, but on qi, the life energy, and is often depicted as a decomposing corpse that moves with stiff hops. Even in ancient Greek and Roman legends we find traces of creatures similar to vampires. In Greek mythology, the Empusae were female demons who transformed into beautiful women to seduce and kill men, drinking their blood. In the Roman world, there was talk of the Striges, vampire witches who attacked children at night to feed on their blood. But vampires are not just ancient creatures. Even in modern popular culture, they have survived and continue to evolve. Today, vampires have become fascinating figures, protagonists of novels, movies, and TV series. Their portrayal varies from terrifying beings to romantic and tormented creatures, as in the case of films like Interview with the Vampire or the Twilight series. However, there is still a dark and mysterious element that accompanies vampires even in modern representations. But do vampires really exist? Some say yes. And there are people who, even today, identify as real vampires. These are people who, for psychological or spiritual reasons, believe they need to feed on the life energy of other people, sometimes even by drinking small amounts of blood. One of the most curious facts is that many of the diseases of the past may have fueled the vampire myth. One of the most widespread theories is that related to porphyria, a blood disease that causes extreme sensitivity to sunlight and physical deformities. Some believe that people suffering from this disease were mistaken for vampires, further fueling the myth. Finally, vampires are closely linked to the fear of death and the mystery of the afterlife. In an age when scientific understanding of disease and decomposition was limited, vampires represented a supernatural explanation for events that seemed inexplicable. Whether you believe in vampires or not, there's no denying that these creatures have a special place in the collective imagination. For centuries, they have inspired fear, fascination, and wonder, and continued to live on in popular culture, evolving with the times but always remaining true to their dark and mysterious nature. What about you? What do you think about vampires? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to discover other fascinating legends on InfiniCurious.